Hello, I'm Nora, and welcome back to Novels with Nora. Today's video is something that I have wanted to make since starting my channel, really, and especially in light of recent events. However, I kept putting it off because I felt like I had to be incredibly well-spoken and eloquent and have like all my points in order and like have like receipts and like facts and everything. But I've come to the conclusion that chances are if you clicked on this video and you're here watching this, you already know that you should be caring about your public library, and you don't need me to convince you why you should care. You need me to give you resources on how to make an impact. And so I figure that's a better use of my time than trying to convince you to care. However, I will still be doing that because hopefully someone who's on the fence about caring, if that's even a possibility, sees this and realizes how important libraries are. So if you haven't figured it out yet, today I am talking about why I care about my public library and why you should care too, because libraries are so much more than just places that you can go and pick up a book. They are truly so much more than that. And if you don't realize that, it's probably because you haven't been in your library in a long time, and that's okay, but today is a great day for change. So I am here to hopefully inspire you to find a love of your local library, to go to your library, to get a library card, to just realize even if you're not using the resources there, someone is. And so having those resources available is so incredibly important. Like I said, libraries provide so much more than just books, movies, and CDs. And like, again, if you don't know that, you probably just haven't been in there in a long time, and that's totally okay. But again, today's a great day to start. So go get yourself a library card. Your library will love it. My personal public library just in 2024 alone had over 2,000 new library card signups, which is crazy. You would think that like most people using the library already have a card, but we're still seeing people signing up for cards and then using those cards, which means that the library still has a demand. And clearly there is a demand if all these libraries are still open and still fighting for funding. Because when I said in light of recent events, unfortunately what I was talking about is the Ohio Public Library Fund on the brink of being completely slashed, and pretty much every library in Ohio relies on this fund for pretty much everything that they do. Before I get too far in, I should also probably preface this with this video is probably going to be all over the place. There's probably going to be a lot of cuts because I have a lot that I want to say, and I want to say all of it, but I don't necessarily know where all my thoughts are going to come and at what time. So bear with me, but I have a lot to say and I hope that you will sit through all of it. So the Ohio Public Library Fund is the fund that funds most, if not all, public libraries in the state of Ohio. And while most libraries have multiple sources of funding, the Public Library Fund has been in place for decades. It makes up the bulk of most library funds. And the Ohio government is threatening, because that's what it is, it's a threat, to completely slash that budget, which would cause the closure of several libraries. And if not the closure, then the shuttering of several resources, different departments. People would lose their jobs. People would lose places to go, because libraries are truly one of the last like third places that we have left. And if you're not familiar with the third place, it's a place that you can go that's not your home or your workplace, where you can go and just exist. There's no expectation of you spending any money or like needing to do anything. There's no requirements of going into a library. Realistically, you don't even need a library card to go and sit and do work in your library. They are safe buildings that have Wi-Fi where you can just go and work with no expectations of you providing anything to them, because they provide everything for you. And that being said, while libraries provide so much for us as patrons, we now need to provide for them and help them stay open and like keep their funding. So that is what I'm here to hopefully inspire in you today. Speaking of library as third places, think when you want to go out with your friends, but like especially if you're younger and you and your friends don't have jobs, or only a few of your friends have jobs, and you want to hang out with your friends outside of school, but you don't necessarily want to go to one of your houses because either their house isn't safe, you just don't want to be in your house, you have a big family, it's just noisy, you just want to be somewhere other than your home. Where are you going to go? If it's raining, you can't go to a park because it's raining and you don't want to be outside. But you also don't necessarily want to go to a store or a mall or something where, first of all, teens are usually seen as like a nuisance and as someone to be kicked out of that space rather than like embraced within it. And so you don't want to do that, especially because then there's like the expectation of either getting food or buying something, even if it's something little. If you don't have any money to spend, going to a place like that can feel incredibly daunting. So libraries are an amazing resource because you can go and just sit and talk for like the whole time the library is open and no one is going to bother you. Granted, you're not causing any problems, but like they're just gonna let you sit. Where else can you go and do that? Like even like a coffee shop, which like are kind of designed to like go and sit, there's the expectation that you're going to be purchasing some kind of beverage or little snack or something. Libraries don't have that expectation, and it's so amazing. So even if you don't read, you don't check out physical media in any aspect, the library is still an amazing space for you to just go and exist away from home, away from work, a place where you can still engage with your community with no expectations. That being said, libraries do offer so many resources outside of just physical media. Yes, they have books, movies, magazines, CDs, literally any physical media you could think of, they probably have it at a library. And if you can't get it from your library, that you can request it from any library and get it sent to yours, because most libraries are part of a bigger library system that you might not even realize you have access to unless you have access to so many more resources. But not just physical media resources, because most libraries have so many programs and different events and things going on that you just might not be aware of. So like pretty much every library does like a summer reading or a winter reading program to help get both kids, teens, and adults involved in reading and involved in the community at large, because most of these events are community events where yes, you're like reading and you're like racking up your hours of how much you read, but then you get to go into the library and like get prizes and interact with the librarians and the library staff. And usually at the end of these programs, they have like a big party where you can meet the other people who are participating and like meet your library community. And I think that's something that is overlooked so frequently when talking about libraries, is the community that they provide. Because chances are, if you go into a library, there's going to be someone in there that you can talk with and connect with. You could be browsing the aisles and see someone pulling out your favorite book and be like, oh my God, I love that. And then they can pick it up with no expectations of anything because they don't even have to pay for it. So it's just, libraries are such amazing places for so many reasons. But circling back to the resources they provide, the library that I worked at in high school, and that is still my local library, they provide tax forms and tax counseling. So during tax season, when you don't really know what you're doing, you don't know what forms you need, we have a table set out with all the forms and like a tax official person there to help walk you through how to do your taxes. They offer a small business brunch where different small businesses in the area can get together and like market with each other and network and like get their names out there. So many libraries offer like cooking utensils, like different appliances and things, different like cookware and pans that you can rent out and have. They offer different games. Like there's so many things outside of just books that I promise you your library has. And if your library does not have these resources, I can almost guarantee you that it's not because they don't want to, it is because they either don't have the funding to do so, or they're simply understaffed because they don't have the funds to hire more people to work the library. Because libraries truly revolve around the people that work in them. As someone who worked in a library in high school and is currently in grad school to get my master's of library science to then become a librarian, there is so much that goes into building a library, and not just like the physical building, but like the space of a library. You know, when I tell people that I'm in grad school to become a librarian, they're like, oh, I didn't know you needed a master's degree for that. And yes, you do. So clearly the people who are working in libraries, granted not all of them are librarians, but like there are librarians in libraries, imagine that. They have so much dedication to this field and passion for what they do. They went to grad school for it. They probably put themselves in student loan debt to do this. They care so much about their communities, and I can guarantee you, if you go into a library looking for something, even if your library and the people there cannot help you with that thing, they will give you the resources to find it elsewhere. That is why libraries are so important, is because they provide such a sense of community and like a safety net. If you're ever in a position where you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go to your library, because chances are they either have someone there who can help you, or they have someone there who can direct you towards the help you need. And this is why cutting public library funding is going to be absolutely devastating and completely crippling to communities, because libraries are community pillars. People rely on their libraries for so many things outside of just physical media. So cutting library funding would be absolutely devastating for so many reasons. We, as a whole society in the country, are experiencing a literacy crisis where people either don't know how to read or don't know how to parse out false information or misinformation. And we're just having such a lack of education. And libraries are one of the few places where you can go and get education for free. Like obviously outside of public schools, but public schools are also losing their funding at this time. But libraries, specifically public libraries, are such amazing places full of knowledge and learning and information. And by cutting the funding, we are effectively, as a society, just saying that we do not care about information. We do not care about being educated. We do not care about educating anyone in our communities, because that's what libraries do. Not only can you go and like learn on your own individually by checking out things that you're interested in, they have programs to like teach people how to become digitally literate, which is the process of like, specifically for older people, them learning how to use their devices and become digitally literate so that they can actually like use all of the resources that are at their fingertips with like smartphones and computers and tablets and all of the things that no one ever taught them how to use, because they didn't grow up in like our generation where we grow up with phones in our hands and we know how to use them. So libraries are providing those services, and without that, how are these older people going to know how to use these things that they need to use in order to function in our society? And by cutting those out, it's a very deliberate evil action that is being taken by our government. And right now, personally, I only know of this happening in Ohio because I live in Ohio, but if it works and this budget goes through in Ohio, chances are it's going to be implemented more widely because they're going to see that it can do it here, and it will take broader effects. I know, especially in the book sphere, we have had conversations about reading isn't political, reading is political. Reading is so incredibly politicized, and having access to your library in this instance, more than anything, is so incredibly political because our politicians are trying to take away our access to our libraries. And to me, that is just unacceptable. And I hope that you see it that way as well. And that's partly why I'm making this video, is because if you are not like a frequent user of your library website, or you aren't up to date with what's going on in like the sphere of information science, you might not even know that this is happening. And you might genuinely really care about your library, but you just don't know that this is a thing. So I'm just hoping that someone sees this and takes action. So what actions can you take? First and foremost, get a library card. Even if you don't plan on using it, the numbers that libraries use to show that they are being used is through how many library card signups they're getting, how many checkouts they have. A lot of libraries have like door counters to show how many people are coming in and out. Go into your library, use the physical space, check something out. Even if you have no intention of using it, check it out and return it, because that is doing so many wonderful things for the library. Using the library is one of the easiest things you can do, granted, if you have like transportation to the library, which a lot of times also libraries have outreach programs where if you are not able to get to the library will come to you and bring you the things that you need. So again, I say the library has so many resources that you probably just don't know about because you've never needed them. But here's the thing, just because you don't need those resources doesn't mean that no one does. Because chances are you might not need the library to come to you because you have a car and you can drive yourself there, or you can pay public transportation fees and you can get on a bus and go, or you live close enough and you can walk. But what about your disabled neighbor who can't get out and has no like caretaker or anyone to get them to the library but loves to read? They need the library to come to them. I am telling you, there are so many things that the library can do that even if you don't need it, someone in your community does. And really, we just need to care about our communities. Now more than ever, caring about your community is so important. So please, show that you care about your libraries and go get a library card. Go into your library. Just say hi to your librarians. Tell them that you appreciate what they're doing. Especially in Ohio, if you live in Ohio right now, a lot of libraries are having some type of something going on where you can write in, either in person, online, on their website, sending an email, whatever, and tell your story of how much the library means to you, to then they give that to your representative. So cutting out the middleman for you and sending it straight to your representative so that they see how much the community cares about their library so that we don't lose these things. If you want to take it a step further, you can even yourself reach out to your representatives and tell them, hey, the library means a lot to me. Please don't take it away from me. Because while they're not cutting the funding completely, again, most libraries rely on the public library fund in order to operate. So by cutting that, they're effectively cutting pretty much every budget. I know that one of the biggest and like most robust public library systems in Ohio, the Toledo County Public Library System, I think relies either between 50 and 80% on the public library fund funding for their systems. And they have amazing things that they have there. And with cutting that fund, they can't do any of those things anymore. So just reaching out to the people in charge, and like, first of all, you should just know who your representatives are. Even if you don't need to reach out to them, knowing who they are isn't important. So finding out who they are, reaching out to them and saying, hey, I don't support this, please, you are supposed to represent me and my voice. I don't support this. Circling back to an earlier point, I told you this video is going to be all over the place. Just because you personally don't have a need for the services that your library offers, if you can afford books, if you can afford all of the streaming services to watch whatever you want, just because you personally do not need the library doesn't mean that someone else doesn't, because everyone could use the library. You know, the library is really a space for everyone, because yes, I have books on my shelves and I bought these books myself. However, I still check out like upwards of 10 books from the library a month because it's so nice to be able to read whatever I want without having to have any financial commitment tied up in it. Especially with books. When you buy a book, there's no guarantee that you're going to love that book and want it on your shelves forever. So being able to check it out from the library, even if you end up buying a copy for yourself later down the road, you know that that's a book that you love and you want permanently on your shelves. Think about that. Like, how amazing is it that in our world, we are able to go into the library, check out, I think my library has like, you can check out 50 things at a time and come home with 50 books that you spent not a single dime on. We are so incredibly privileged, and I think so many people just take their libraries for granted because especially in like smaller, more rural areas, their libraries are underfunded, so they don't have the newest releases, the most exciting titles. But do you know why that is? It's because your library lacks the funding in order to get those things. It's because your library doesn't have the numbers that the state wants to see in order to fund those libraries. So if you want your library to have more new, exciting things, more programs, more resources that they offer, you need to use your library. It's that simple. If you want your library to have things, you need to make it known that you want those things and then use your library. Because if the library doesn't know that there's a need for something, they're not going to know to fill that gap. But that's something that libraries do and do so well, is they fill gaps. Because in so many communities, almost all of them, there is some type of gap. Either that's a knowledge gap or a space gap. Whatever that gap may be for your community, I can bet you that your library can fill it. So if the gap is that there's not a lot of internet in your area and a lot of people can't afford internet so they don't have it, the library probably has that, because they're going to have like at least one computer that's for public use that you can go in and use and get on the internet. If the gap is that there's no community gathering spaces, the library is right there. That fills that gap. I talk about this all the time in my grad program with the other people in my class. It's that libraries are so much more than just buildings that house books. They are truly magical spaces that provide so much for their communities, more than people even realize. Because especially being on the back end of it and working towards being a librarian and having worked in a library, I see how much librarians and library staff care about their libraries. They care so deeply and they want their libraries to be beautiful, amazing, magical spaces, but they can't do that on their own. And it's like how we know that teachers are underfunded, and so they make like Amazon wish lists and people support them to help them build their classrooms into places that the kids love being in. And that's kind of how libraries are too. It's just that librarians are doing this out of their own pockets and from the public library funds that they have in order to make their spaces as good as they can be. And a lot of times they rely on community resources in order to do that. So like a lot of times libraries, they rely on levies to be passed in order to have renovations, get more added to their budget. They rely on the community, and while the community relies on them, they rely on the community just as much. It's a very symbiotic relationship. If no one is participating in the programs that the library has, the library won't offer those programs for anyone to participate in. So it's a very back and forth process. So really the best thing that you can do for your library is get a library card and use it. And when I tell you, those are some of the easiest things to do. Really, in order to get a library card, all you need is like an ID and a piece of mail that has your address on it. And even then, a lot of times, if you really want a library card but you don't have those things, the librarians are willing to work with you to make things work, because librarians are some of the most genuine, caring, considerate people you will ever meet. And if you meet a librarian and they're not the nicest to you, it's probably because they're having a bad day, and it's probably because their jobs are on the line at the moment. So I really encourage you to just go to your library, see what they have to offer. Even if you don't like walk in and see it right away, ask them, what kind of resources do you have here? Because they would be more than willing to talk to you about it, because they live their libraries even more than you do. If you love reading, or even if you just like reading, you should love your public library. Because even if, again, you can afford books, you can go out and buy as many books as you want and do whatever you want with them, you should still love your library, because your libraries almost always make it possible for your favorite authors to keep writing. Because libraries are one of the biggest purchasers of books, because they have to keep their shelves stocked. So they are buying a lot of copies of books. And more than that, a lot of times, the library journals are the ones who are doing early reviews of these books, who are then making it possible for the books, and thus your favorite authors, to get as much publicity as they are. So if you love books and you want to support authors, requesting a book from your library is a great way to support them, even if you can't go out and buy the book. So I'm telling you, if you are on BookTube, if you are in the book space, if you like reading, if you ever once in your life read a book, the public library is your best friend, and the librarians there are your best friends, because you can get any book you want. Even if they don't have it on the shelves in your library, you can probably walk up to the desk and say, hey, I'm looking for this book. And they might say, well, we don't have it here, but we can request to get a copy in for you. And they will do everything in their power to make sure that that book is there for you. And by you checking that out, you're adding to their statistics of what is being checked out. So chances are more things like what you're requesting are going to be bought for the library. And I just think it's amazing how symbiotic of a process that is. What the people are checking out is what the library gets more of. So if you want your voice to be heard, all you have to do is go and check out books. And how fantastic is that? Really, if there's one thing I could have anyone take away from this video, it's that libraries and the librarians that work in them are such magical places and people, and they just want to help. Really, that's all they want. They are such vital community pillars that even if there's a resource that you're like, oh, who would need that? Someone needs that, because the chances are, if that resource is being offered, it's because there has been a demand or a need for it. So next time you walk into your library and you see an event happen and you're like, ew, who would go to that? Why are they having this event? I don't need that. You might not, but I can guarantee you that someone else does. If you let them, libraries will be your best friend, because almost anything you could ever need, you can get through a library. A lot of times libraries also offer food pantries, and if they don't, you could go ahead and start one. That is just such the beauty of libraries, is that if there's a service that you are wanting, chances are someone in the library who works there, who has the power to make a change, also wants to do that. They just need to know that it's going to be used. So if you want to create like a food bank in your library, go to one of the librarians and say, hey, I have this idea. They will work with you to do that. If you have an idea for a book club or a different event, the library would be more than willing to help you make that a possibility. Again, libraries are just such amazing, magical places that just exist solely for the people. And we don't have many of those institutions left. And I could talk all day about how much I love libraries and how much I love working in libraries and how it has been my dream for so long to work in a library, and how devastating it is that now that I'm so close, like I'm genuinely one step away finally from achieving that dream, the rug could be pulled out from under me at any second and I could lose all hope. And that is something that I just can't let happen. Hence why I'm making this video. And part of the reason why I started this channel is I love libraries so much, and I want to document my process of becoming a librarian and showing you how amazing libraries are and how amazing they can be if you just let them. And genuinely, when I tell you that the people that I've met through my program and through working in libraries are like the best people that I've ever met, I promise you that. If you go into a library, there is more than one person there, probably more than 3 people there, who are more than willing to like lay their life on the line, quite literally, to help you with whatever you need. When I worked at the library, this was in high school, so 3.5 years ago at this point, we had people who would come in and use our computers to apply for jobs, apply for housing, things that they wouldn't be able to do if we didn't offer those services to them. And I just think that it's so amazing, the services that libraries can offer, and so dumbfounding how many people don't know that those services even exist, because a lot of times libraries are just underfunded. They just simply don't have the resources to offer the services and then also advertise them. So doing everything you can for your library, which could be as simple as going in and getting a library card. A lot of times libraries even let you do it online, so you can have a digital card. Oh my god, and you can get Libby. How have I not talked about Libby yet? Most libraries offers Libby and possibly Hoopla. That might just be my library system thing, but check if they have Hoopla, because Libby allows you to check out ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines completely free through your library card, and all you have to do is have the library card, which you can get online. You don't even have to go in person to get that. So if you don't ever want to even leave your house, you don't have to. You can check out these books and have them to read for free right on your device. And just like, how amazing of a resource is that? And it's something that libraries can only provide through funding, because you might not think that it's that big of a deal. Oh, it's an ebook. Ebooks are expensive. You probably don't realize that, because how often are you buying ebooks? But especially for the library to offer multiple copies of it, it's quite expensive for them. So just by you checking it out and then returning it on the due date, or Libby actually automatically returns things for you, you are helping the library out more than you even realize. And it is just so thrilling, especially for the librarians that help build up the collections, seeing something that they fought to be purchased, checked out, and knowing that they are helping their community. It's one of the most rewarding feelings, and you are helping them contribute to that. So pat yourself on the back. If you have a library card, you get a gold star. And if you don't have a library card, this is your sign to go out and do it, because I'm telling you, it is like a 10-minute process, if that, and it's so simple for like a lifetime of just resources, knowledge, information, fun, honestly, because I got my library card, I want to say like 10 years ago at this point, and I still have it, and I don't have to renew it. And it's amazing. Also, libraries are moving away from having late fees. A lot of libraries just like, they automatically renew the books for you at this point, so that you don't have to worry about the late fees. And as long as you return the book, then you're fine, no matter when you're returning it, because they realized that these fines were a barrier to people using the libraries, and so they completely took that away. Another instance of libraries just being so dedicated to their communities. And like, how many places are truly like that? How many places can you name right now? How many institutions, how many resources, services can you name that are fully dedicated to serving their community? Because I bet it's not that many. I'm sure there are some, but probably not that many, especially in more rural communities that don't have as many like community spaces to go to. The libraries are their space. And while they're probably, again, underfunded, they have resources. You just have to go in and use them. And so again, if there's one thing to take away from this, it's please use your library. They are there for you. They want you to use them. They are waiting for you to walk through their doors and realize the magic that lies within. And I know it sounds like I'm crazy, a raving lunatic talking about the libraries for this long, but I promise you, there is so much more that I could even say. And I could not fit it all into one video, because I know as soon as I turn the camera off, I'm going to be thinking, oh, I should have said this. Oh, I should have said that. Because there's so much that your library offers that I don't even know about, because I don't know your library. I only know my library. But I also know that there's so many things that the library wishes they could do. They just don't have the funding or the resources to do. So if you want your library to get better and you want them to have newer things, go in, use their resources, tell them how much you love them, write to your representatives, tell them how much you love your libraries, because that is how we are going to save our libraries. And that is how we are going to keep our communities informed and keep them abreast of the insane amount of information that we're having. I know my library actually is doing a class on how to spot AI and how to recognize when things are AI and when things are real, which is so incredibly important. And like, these classes that libraries are offering, which are something that you probably don't even think of when you think of library, they're so important because while you might know, oh, that's AI, I can spot it from a mile away, there's probably someone out there who can't, and they're probably struggling with that. And the library is a place where they can go and learn how to do things. My library has a program where I think it's every month you can go, and if you have any question, anything to do with any kind of technology issues that you're having, once a month they have these drop-in events where you can take in your device or whatever issue you're having, and there's people there who are going to help you. And it's things like that that I think get overlooked in the, oh, well, my library doesn't have a book newer than 1992. Well, why do you think that is? It's because your library doesn't have the funding. Trust me, libraries would love to be state of the art with like 47 3D printing machines, but that's just not realistic because they don't have the money for that. And the libraries that do have that, it's because their communities use them and rely on them and have shown time and time again that they're willing to show up for those libraries. So if you want your library to get better, you have to show up and show out for them. And I'm going to leave a whole bunch of links in the description of things that I can't think of right now, or that are in the back of my head and I just can't seem to remember, but things of ways that you can support your library and different information on like library statistics. Also, almost every library releases an annual report at the end of the year. So the ones from 2024 should be rolling out now, if not soon. And they show how many checkouts they had in total. I think my library just released theirs today, and they had over 200,000 physical materials checked out. That is so many. Do you know how much money that's saving? That's insane. So this report shows you that their libraries are being used, and you can use that data. Well, first of all, libraries use it to see what aspects they can improve upon, what aspects they can strengthen, what aspects are being used by their community. But also you can use that to then email your representatives and say, hey, look at all these checkouts my library is having. Why are you trying to cut their funding? Clearly it's an amazingly relied upon resource. So I think that is going to be all from me because I could go on forever, but I do think I want to cut myself off here. And I just want to tell you, if you have a library card, genuinely thank you. As a future librarian, it means more to me than you could ever imagine, and it means more to librarians than you could ever imagine. So thank you for having a library card. Thank you for watching this. I would love for you to share your stories about why you love libraries in the comments so we can just fill this whole space with library love. I would love that so much. And thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Genuinely, caring is one of the most important things that you can do, especially in today's world that is so filled with hopelessness. Having hope and having the courage to do something about it is so important. And thank you. That's really all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope to see you again in one of my other videos that's hopefully a little bit more lighthearted, but this one is incredibly important. So again, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.